The night everything changed. It was 3 a.m. in a quiet neighborhood in Cleveland. The streets were silent. No cars, no sirens, just wind brushing against old trees. Inside a small two-story house, 8-year-old Ethan Cole was asleep in his room. His mother, Melissa, had checked on him at midnight. He was safe. Window locked, door closed. At 3:17 a.m., everything changed.
Ethan?
Melissa woke up suddenly. She later said she didn't hear a scream. She didn't hear glass break. She just felt something was wrong. She walked to Ethan's room. The bed was empty. The window was open. The curtains moved slowly in the cold night air. Ethan was gone. Police arrived within minutes. Search dogs, helicopters, flashlights scanning the woods behind the house. But there were no footprints, no signs of forced entry, no ransom note. It was like he vanished into thin air. The story spread across Ohio. Local news covered it daily. Volunteers searched for weeks, but after 6 months, the case went cold. Some neighbors whispered about kidnapping. Others believed it was something darker. Melissa refused to move. She kept Ethan's room exactly the same. His toys, his clothes, his nightlight. Every night at 3 a.m., she woke up, waiting. 10 years passed, and then, on a rainy October night, someone knocked on the door. And what Melissa saw on the porch made her heart stop. But the boy standing there wasn't the same little boy who disappeared. And what he said next would shock the entire town. Because Ethan didn't just come back. He came back with a story no one was prepared to hear. The Return. The knock came at exactly 3:06 a.m. Melissa almost didn't open the door. It had been 10 years. Hope can be dangerous. But something told her to look. Standing under the porch light was a thin teenage boy, wet hair, pale face, dark circles under his eyes. "Mom?" he said quietly. Melissa couldn't breathe. The eyes, they were Ethan's. Police were called immediately. DNA testing confirmed it. It was him. The entire town of Cleveland exploded with disbelief. News vans returned, cameras everywhere. But Ethan wasn't the smiling reunion story people expected. He barely spoke. When detectives asked where he had been, he gave one answer. In a house. What house? I don't know. Who took you? I don't remember. He said he woke up the night he disappeared and saw a man standing in his room. The man told him to stay quiet. Then everything went black. He claimed he had lived in one house for 10 years. No school, no phone, no internet, just rules, strict rules. He wasn't allowed to look outside certain windows. He wasn't allowed to ask questions. And every night at 3 a.m., the man would check his room. But here's what scared detectives the most. Ethan said 3 other children were there too, but he was the only one who came back. And when police searched the woods again, they found something buried near an abandoned farmhouse, something that proved Ethan wasn't lying. Because what they uncovered in that forest revealed a truth darker than anyone imagined. The house in the woods. The farmhouse was located 20 miles outside the city. It looked abandoned, broken windows, collapsing roof, nature swallowing it slowly. But inside, investigators found signs of life. Small beds, canned food, chains attached to wall hooks, and in the basement, children's drawings. One drawing showed 4 stick figures and one tall shadow figure standing over them. Ethan identified the house immediately. "That's it," he whispered. But here's the twist. There were no fingerprints, no DNA except Ethan's, no sign of forced captivity. It looked staged. Even more disturbing, neighbors near the farmhouse claimed no one had lived there for years. So how did a child survive there for a decade? When psychologists interviewed Ethan, they noticed something unusual. He didn't show trauma the way most kidnapping victims do. He showed fear, but not of the past. He seemed afraid of something coming back. One night, security cameras outside Melissa's home caught Ethan standing in the yard at exactly 3 a.m., staring into the woods, as if waiting. When his mother asked what he was doing, he replied, "He said he'd come back if I ever told." But police never found him. No missing persons report matched, no known offender connected. Then one detail changed everything. A retired officer reviewing the old case noticed something strange from 10 years ago. There were no signs Ethan left through the window. The dirt below was undisturbed, which means he may have walked out the front door, willingly. But if Ethan wasn't taken, then who was the man in the house? And why did the farmhouse look like it was waiting for someone? The forgotten truth. Detectives reopened every file. They
Take your time,
interviewed Melissa again. That's when a painful memory resurfaced. 10 years earlier, Melissa had been struggling. Financial stress,
It's just
divorce,
so hard to go
long
back.
night shifts.
We need to understand.
Ethan had become quiet before he disappeared, withdrawn. Teachers once reported he talked about an imaginary friend who visited at night, a tall man who told him stories at 3 a.m. Psychologists began exploring a disturbing possibility. What if Ethan wasn't physically kidnapped? What if something else happened? Medical tests revealed Ethan had suffered prolonged isolation, but no physical abuse marks consistent with restraints. Then came the final twist. Ethan confessed something during a private session. He said the house wasn't always in the woods. Sometimes it was in his head. He described dissociation, creating a different reality to escape loneliness and fear. But that still didn't explain the farmhouse. Until investigators discovered Ethan had been sneaking away years before his disappearance, exploring the woods alone. He knew that farmhouse, and he may have been living there secretly longer than anyone realized. But that raises one terrifying question. How does an 8-year-old survive alone for 10 years? And why return now? Because Ethan's final confession would leave even the detectives silent.
The truth at 3 a.m. In his final recorded statement, Ethan said this: "I wasn't taken, I left." The night he disappeared, he packed snacks and a flashlight days earlier. He said he felt invisible at home, angry at his parents' divorce, lost. The man he described? A coping mechanism, a voice he created to survive isolation. For years, he moved between abandoned structures in rural Ohio, taking food when he could, hiding from people. The farmhouse became his main shelter. The other children? Versions of himself at different ages. Psychologists later confirmed he developed severe dissociative coping patterns. He returned at 18 because he was tired of surviving. He wanted to live. The town was shocked. Some called him brave.
Others questioned how authorities missed the warning signs. Melissa blamed herself for years. But Ethan said something powerful during a local interview. "I didn't need a hero. I needed someone to notice I was hurting." The story wasn't about a monster in the woods. It was about silent pain, and how sometimes the most dangerous disappearances aren't physical, they're emotional. Final lesson of this story. Sometimes people don't scream when they're struggling. Sometimes they smile. Sometimes they sit quietly in their room at 3 a.m., feeling alone in a house full of people. The lesson is simple. Pay attention. Listen deeper. If someone changes behavior, don't ignore it. And if you are the one hurting, speak up. Running away doesn't fix pain. Facing it does. Because the scariest disappearances are the ones nobody sees.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories and life lessons, only on StoryZon. See you in the next story.